afternoon to everyone joining us today. My name is Aga Kvolek and I represent British Aviation Group today. I'm also a co-chair of BAG's Environment Working Group, and I'm delighted to be your moderator today. I can see we have a truly representation of airports, consultancies, operators, construction companies, environment and travel industry professionals. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'll shortly run through the agenda and introductions, but first maybe a few housekeeping rules. You will be muted on joining by default. Please kindly submit all your questions in the question box, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can at the end of the session. And also please note that this webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be shared with you shortly after the webinar. Today's agenda, let me briefly introduce BAG in a moment. Then I'll take you to introduction of our speakers, Gabi, Morven, and Alexander. And then we'll hear directly from Morven and Alexander about the ACA program. And then Gabi from Eindhoven Airport will share her presentation. The main part consists of about 30 slides and should last approximately 40 to 45 minutes and will be followed by a Q&A session. Now, why we believe this webinar can be relevant to you and your company, and maybe a few words about the British Aviation Group who organizes this webinar together with ACI. For those new to BAG, the British Aviation Group, we are a leading representative body for British companies involved in aviation and airport development and operations. We are a not-for-profit trade organization. We represent about 230 member companies from across the supply chain, including world leaders in all aspects of aviation. We work very closely with the UK Department for Business and Trade to help global aviation clients connect with the world-class expertise of the British aviation sector. Today's webinar, the intention behind today's webinar is to bring you closer to the Airport Carbon Accreditation program. We will be referring to it as ACA program. Its requirements, procedures, benefits, and we'll share with you a real-life case study by our guest speaker, Eindhoven Airport. Since its launch in 2009, the Airport Carbon Accreditation Program has attracted over 600 airports worldwide, all committed to advancing their decarbonisation goals and leading the way in sustainable aviation. We believe that today's learning session is also a great opportunity for airport supply chain to understand better how you can support your clients in their net zero journey and how you and your company can contribute, create value and scale sustainable solutions. And now, allow me to introduce the speakers. In the order of the photos in the slides, we have Gabi Mols, Manager Corporate Affairs at Eindhoven Airport. Gabi has been working with the Eindhoven Airport for 20 years. She began her career at the Noise office and now serves as Manager Corporate Affairs. Her focus is on environmental topics with a particular emphasis on sustainability throughout the value chain. Gabi collaborates with a wide range of stakeholders and represents Eindhoven Airport in regional, national, and European stakeholder groups. Eindhoven Airport has been ACA accredited since 2009 and 2010 and has achieved level 5 status as one of the first pilot airports in the world. So congratulations, Gabi, on that. Gabi also holds a degree in applied psychology, specializing in work, behavioral, and organizational psychology, which greatly supports her efforts in guiding the airport towards achieving net zero. Our next speaker is Morven Snedden, Carbon Strategy Officer at Environmental Minds. Morven is the lead specialist on climate issues. She monitors developments in global carbon frameworks and advises, among others, on the Airport Carbon Accreditation strategy. Working closely with the operations team, she is responsible for ensuring the quality and reliability of the company's services. Morven has over 6 years of experience in sustainability to the transport infrastructure sector, specializing in carbon management at Edinburgh Airport, where she led the achievement of the Airport Carbon Accreditation Level 5. And from ACI Europe, we have Alexander de Joubert, Director of Sustainability. Alexander joined ACI in February 2022 and responsible for the coordination of all aspects of the association's sustainability strategy. He represents ACI Europe in various high-level EU, ECAC, and Eurocontrol fora. He also monitors the administrations and ongoing evolution of the global carbon standard, Airport Carbon Accreditation, which belongs to ACI Europe. He's a French national with impressive 3 master degrees in international and European law, in political sciences, and in political economy of Europe. And before joining ACI Europe, he had worked for Total, the oil and gas year, the Burnwick Group, and most recently for Plastics Europe. Thank you so much to all our speakers for finding time to join our webinar today. And now over to Marvin and Alexander.
Thank you, Agnieszka. Thank you. So indeed, I mean, we gathered today indeed to provide you with an introduction to the Airport Carbon Accreditation program that was developed by ACI Europe. So in short, I mean, for those who are not familiar with ACI Europe, we are the only airports association in Europe representing over 600 airports in 55 countries. And our members facilitate over 95% of commercial air traffic. So I'm very pleased to introduce with Marvin to introduce you with the Airport Carbon Accreditation program. Yeah, we can go to the next slide, where we'll provide you with the basic elements to know about the program. Basically, the Airport Carbon Accreditation program is the only institutionally endorsed global carbon management program. It's an international program that started in Europe, which is now global. I will come back to that. So it's the only existing program certification program for airports. It provides, I mean, the idea of the Airport Carbon Accreditation program is basically to provide a framework for airports of all sizes and all location with a set of, I mean, to set emission reduction targets with the objective of reaching net zero by 2050, as per ACI Europe commitments in particular, but also as part of the aviation commitment and the long-term aspiration goal. The program is aligned with the greenhouse gas protocol, and the aim of the program is obviously to assess and recognize the efforts by airports that are to manage and reduce their carbon emissions. And we'll go through we'll drive you through the different levels and process as part of this presentation. So if you go to next slide. Very briefly, the program evolution. I just mentioned that indeed the program was launched in Europe initially in 2009. Basically, prior to these dates, airports were managing their carbon emission reduction more on the individual level, and we believed at the time that it was necessary to have, to provide for all airports a common framework, and this is how we came out with the development of the Airport Carbon Accreditation program. And as you can see on the slide, it was then quickly joined by other regions of ACI Europe, starting with Asia Pacific, then Africa, North America, and then it went like fully global in 2014. So to date, yeah, we celebrated last year the 15th anniversary of the program, which has grown and developed over time to basically align with the latest scientific development and societal expectations. If we go to the next slide, I wanted to maybe highlight here some of the benefits of the accreditation. As I mentioned, so this is, the ACA program provides a framework to identify and manage emission sources at airports. It's a good tool to measure the emission reductions and the carbon management strategy of airports. It also inspires indeed ambitious carbon reduction initiatives with the common goal, and it's a very helpful tool also to promote collaboration and knowledge sharing with the different stakeholders at airports. And I know Marvin might also run through different initiatives that we have as part of the program to further promote this collaboration across the different stakeholders at airports. Another benefit is obviously to enhance the reputation, credibility, and employee engagement. And last but not least, we noticed increasingly the importance of the program to improve access to green finance and connects the airports to global sustainability efforts. Basically, here we have, there are several financial institutions using this program as a KPI for green finance and sustainability loans, for instance. So on the next slide, just to provide you with an overview of the different levels of the program. The program started with not with all this level at start. Obviously, we started with level 1 in 2009, level 1, 2, and 3, and 3+, and I'll get there later on. Basically, the first level of accreditation is recognizing the airports that can provide a carbon footprint and with a calculation and policy commitment to CO2 reduction. So this is really the initial step where we believe, obviously, it helps the airports to put a first step into the program by already providing this carbon footprint. I see there is a question. I don't know whether I should take the question now or if we should wait for the Q&A session. Sorry. Well, okay, I see the hand has been withdrawn. So fine. The level 2. Happy to answer any questions, obviously, after the presentation. The level 2 of the program recognize the airports that manage and reduce and show a reduction of their carbon footprint. It's really the expected next step after having at hand the carbon footprint. The airport should then use it and then make every effort it can to reduce this footprint. And at level 3 already there is a recognition of the airport's engagement with other partners at the airport to measure the emissions of some selected scope 3 emissions. So indeed, maybe I forgot to mention that indeed level 1 and 2 really focuses on scope 1 and 2. And then at level 3, there is already a first step to look and to tap into scope 3 emissions. And the level 4 that was launched in 2020 recognized the airports that can show absolute emission reductions in line with the Paris Agreement. And also from level 4, the airport has to show an extended, the measure of an extended carbon footprint and enhance third-party engagement. So on scope 3. We have the 3+ and 4+ level. So with this levels, 3+ and 4+, basically, to be accredited at these levels, the airport needs to meet all the requirements of level 3 or level 4, and then it provides the ability for the airports to also be recognized for offsetting the residual emission for scope 1 and 2. And let's say the pinnacle level that was launched in 2023 at COP28 in Dubai is the level 5, which is basically the level that recognizes that an airport has achieved and can maintain a net zero CO2 emission on scope 1 and 2. And obviously there is also a need to commit to net zero by 2050 or sooner. And here there is also recognition for this level of offsetting. However, we made the program makes the requirement a bit more stringent, meaning that for the offsets recognized at level 5, they can only be offset removal, and only for residual emissions at a maximum of 10% of the emissions of scope 1 and 2. This is for the broad view of the programs and the levels that are recognized in the program. Here you can see an overall map and some key figures about the program. So we started basically in 2009 with 17 European airports accredited. And as you can see, 16 years later, we now reached 621 airports accredited globally. Across 97 countries, and it's we're quite we're pleased to also recognize that now 54% of global passengers are basically traveling through an airport that is accredited as part of the program. And on the right hand of the slide, you can see the different the number of airports accredited at the different levels that we have. So more than close to 80% of the airports are actually already reducing emission within the program. So from level 2 onwards, and it's quite interesting to see as well that the level 5, which was launched only 2 years ago, with 10 pioneer airports, has now reached a number of 24 airports globally that have attained this net zero on scope 1 and 2, recognized by level 5. The next slide, some key principles of the program that it's helpful to keep in mind is basically the program is focused on performance. So emissions reductions have to be demonstrated as of level 2, as indicated before. We really put a certain emphasis on the fact that reductions are necessary before offsetting. So the offset is really for the residual emissions of airport scope 1 and 2. It promotes obviously a continuous improvement, and there are renewals to also check, the how airports are doing and making sure that they are actually always meeting the criteria over time. It's not just one accreditation forever. It needs to be substantiated and regularly prove that the criteria remains meet. And double assessments of accreditation applications. So there is basically the data provided and the submissions of applications from the airports have to be met by have to be provided to the administrator, Environmental Minds, who is Morven, who will present in a few seconds, and also an independent third-party verifier. So it's not ACI Europe delivering, or attesting the fact that the criteria are met, but it's rather the independent administrator that is doing so. And just the next slides, just to provide you an overview of how the program is governed. So the program is owned by ACI Europe, but then we have also a task force, so ACI Europe has the overall responsibility of the program. Then there is a task force which looks at all the technical issues and then make sure that all the criteria are always up to date and meeting the most stringent scientific developments. And an advisory board composed of a variety of international organizations in the aviation or the climate sector. And last but not least, the administrator, so Environmental Minds, who's an independent administrator helping and guiding airports in their application to the program. I will now leave the floor actually to Environmental Minds, who will tell you more about the in-depth of the program.
Great, thank you, Alexander, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Morven Snedden, and I'm the Carbon Strategy Officer at Environmental Minds. We're an environmental consultancy based in Athens, Greece, and we specialise in sustainability in the aviation sector, including the administration of Airport Carbon Accreditation. So over the next 10 minutes or so, I'll just go through the programme requirements in a bit more detail with you. So first, just a quick overview here of the accreditation process. Airports can register their interest in the online platform and they begin filling out the assessment form for their chosen level. They then submit all of their evidence and documents to the independent verifier, which Alexander mentioned. And this is an approved verifier by the programme, and they conduct their verification. So they're going through the documents and the evidence and making sure that the airport meets all the requirements for their chosen level. And then the airport submits their application to us, the administrator, and we have a team here that go through and they assess all of the documents that the airport has submitted and the application and look at and make sure that the airport has met each of the requirements for that level. And then upon successful application, the airport will receive their certificate from their regional ACI office. So let's take a look here. I know there's quite a lot of information on this slide, so I'll spend a bit of time here. So you can see the levels along the top there that Alexander went through with you, and along down the left-hand side, we have a list of the key items. So with Programme 1, really it's all about asking the airports to map their Scope 1 and 2 emissions, in addition to committing to an emission reduction via the policy commitment at the top there. And then as we progress to levels 2 and levels 3, airports are asked to add to this. So they have select Scope 3 emissions at level 3 and 3+. And they're also asked to submit an emission reduction target. And the emission reduction target should be for their Scope 1 and 2 emissions. And it's up to the airport if they want that to be an absolute or an intensity target. And accompanying this should be the carbon management plan. And the carbon management plan really is an opportunity for the airport to list out everything that they're doing to reduce their emissions and ultimately to meet this target. And then also at level 3 and 3+, a stakeholder engagement plan is required. And the purpose of this is to demonstrate how the airport is communicating with the third parties that they have on site, and really how they're involving those third parties in achieving their emission reduction. And yeah, as Alexander mentioned, at level 3+, we also have the addition of carbon offsetting for residual Scope 1 and 2 emissions, as well as business staff business travel. And this can be done through the purchase of credits from reduction or removal projects. And then moving further up the programme, so into level 4 and 4+, this is where we ask airports to expand their GHG inventory. So now it's their Scope 1, their Scope 2, and their full Scope 3 footprint as well. And they're also required to submit an emission reduction target that is absolute for Scope 1 and 2, and it must be in line with the 1.5 degree pathway. And also a change from level 3 to level 4 is the stakeholder management here. So airports now need to submit at level 4 and 4+ this stakeholder partnership plan. And this should illustrate how they have an active role in reducing the emissions of their third parties, as well as their own emissions. And then moving up to level 5, this is our uppermost level of the programme, and it's where airports, again, must submit a full GHG inventory, but they also must show that they have already achieved and have maintained a 90% absolute reduction for their Scope 1 and 2 emissions. And then in addition to this, they need to set a net zero target for their full inventory. Again, they have the stakeholder partnership plan showing how they work with the third parties, and offsetting, which can only be from removal projects. So I know there's a lot there. I'll just go through now each of these components one at a time. Sorry, I hope you can see me now. I'm not sure if it was showing before. But yeah.
We can see you, Marvin. We couldn't see you earlier, but we can see you now. Thank you.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so yeah, back to the policy commitment. This is required for every level of the programme, and this is where we really just want to see the airport committing to reducing their emissions. It should be publicly available, and it must be signed by the highest management level at the airport. It doesn't necessarily need to be a standalone policy, so the airport may already have a sustainability report that covers this, so you know, we do accept that as well. And yeah, it's right from level 1 all through to level 5. Next is the GHG inventory. So again, you can see for all levels of the programme, we require Scope 1 and Scope 2 emissions to be reported. And then from level 3 onwards, or sorry, level 3 and 3 plus, we require some select Scope 3 emissions. So, for example, business travel, waste, landing and takeoff. And then when the airport gets to level 4 onwards, up to level 5, we require that full GHG inventory encompassing all 3 scopes and all emission sources within their Scope 3 as well. And we have a really nice tool that's available to airports. It's a free Excel-based tool. It's called the ACERT tool, or the Airport Carbon and Emissions Reporting tool. And this was developed by ACI for airports to calculate their emissions. And yeah, it doesn't require any emissions expertise. All it requires, as you can see there in that video, is the operational data. So the airport can input their operational data, and it uses a default emission factor, or if the airport has their own preferred emission factor, they can input that, and it churns out the carbon emissions following the GHG protocol standards as well. So just to highlight that, it's a really useful tool there. And then next we have here the carbon reduction targets. So the carbon reduction targets are introduced from level 2 onwards. And from level 2, 3 and 3 plus, this is where, as I mentioned, airports can select either an absolute or an intensity target. Whereas from level 4 onwards, it must be an absolute emission target. And at level 4 onwards, it must be in line with that 1.5 degree pathway. It is voluntary for Scope 3 at level 4 and 4 plus, so completely up to the airport if they want to include that. While at level 5, this must encapsulate the entire inventory and be a net zero target. And the carbon management plan is really the airport's opportunity to show to us how they plan to achieve that target. So we want to see what are the carbon reduction initiatives that you have already taken, you're currently taking, and that you plan to take. And as much as possible, these should have an estimated emissions reduction alongside them. And yeah, any other objectives that the airport has, it's their opportunity there to include that here and support the carbon reduction target. And then we have the stakeholder management plans. So at level 3 and 3 plus, this is where you'll remember airports are now including some select Scope 3 emissions. So this is where there's also this introduction of the stakeholder engagement plan. And we ask airports at levels 3 and 3 plus to identify those stakeholders that contribute most to their Scope 3 emissions, and to set out how they are communicating with those stakeholders, how they're sharing their own emission reduction target with that stakeholder. And then the difference from level 4, 4 plus and 5 is that it is the stakeholder partnership plan. And this is where airports need to really demonstrate how they're driving emission reductions with their stakeholders and their own emissions, but how they're actively working with those third parties, and any measures that they're implementing or infrastructure that they're installing. This is that opportunity there to highlight that to us. And again, for levels 4, 4 plus and 5, if they can demonstrate the quantified emission reduction by each of those activities that they're doing with their stakeholders, then it's a really nice way to demonstrate that in this plan. And then next we have the carbon offsetting. So just to finish with this, so carbon offsetting is included in these 3 levels, so 3 plus, 4 plus and 5. The difference is that at 3 plus and 4 plus, airports can choose to offset their residual emissions from either a carbon reduction project or a carbon removal project, whereas at level 5, the airports must select credits from carbon removal projects. And the credits must come from programs that are endorsed by ICBCM or ICROA. And they also cannot be from methodologies that ICBCM have rejected. But all of that is outlined in the offset guidance that was updated earlier this summer. And then I'd just like to finish, before I hand over to Gabby, a final slide here that demonstrates the impact of the programme, particularly from the last year. So the first line there shows the emission reductions that were achieved by those airports at levels 2 to 3+. And you can see over 1 million tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent was reduced when compared with their 3-year average. We can also see in the middle row there that our airports at levels 4 and 4+ have committed to reducing almost 3 million tonnes of CO2 equivalent between 2030 and 2050. And then finally there, the impact of the offsetting. So over 660,000 tonnes of CO2 equivalent has been offset by our level 3+ and 4+ airports. And finally, over 17,000 tonnes of CO2 equivalent by our level 5 airports has been removed. So yeah, just a few key points there. So thank you. I'll hand over to Gabby, and sorry that my camera wasn't working, but yeah, glad it worked in the end.
I think you can see my screen now. If not, please let me know. So
not yet, Gabby, not yet.
You don't see it?
Yeah, maybe Marvin needs to stop sharing hers. If that's the case, maybe that would help. And then that should work. Yes, we can see yours. If you could just go to the presentation mode, that would be wonderful.
Yes, I will go
Thanks.
to the presentation.
Thanks.
I think this is it. Yes,
yes,
okay.
perfect. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So thank you, ACI, for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit about my journey at Eindhoven Airport with the ACI program. And it has been a journey indeed. But let me tell you a little bit more about Eindhoven Airport for everybody who is joining. Thank you so much. So we are, of course, Eindhoven Airport, and we are located in the south of the Netherlands. Special about our airport is that we have a joint use of military and civil aviation. So that's really nice to know, because they're also divided within footprint. So that would be a difficulty for you. We have a management organization of about 75 employees, but indirectly we have 1,700 jobs at the airport. So we are a small regional airport, but the second largest in the Netherlands. So we have a stakeholder share of Schiphol of 51%. And the other half is divided between the province of North Brabant and the Eindhoven municipality. And of course, we have a beautiful hotel, as you can see in the pictures of Eindhoven Airport. It is also part of our organization. So we have a network of destinations of about 27 countries in 2024, with 79 destinations, including 22 capital cities, and we have nearly 7 million passengers in 2024. So just a couple of numbers to have a reference to all the airports are joining to compare with Eindhoven Airport. A little bit about the flight movement and passengers. As you can see, as of 2010, we have been growing enormously up to 2019. In our case, 41,000 aircraft movements, then the dip of COVID, and immediately after recovered very, very quickly up to the standards as we have now. At Eindhoven Airport, we have a cap on aircraft movement, so we cannot go above 41,500. So this is almost the best we can do at the moment in agreement with the community that we have. So in this slide, the most important thing that I want to tell here is that this is our renewed purpose of Eindhoven Airport, and the main thing here to show is that sustainability is really one of the key factors that we have named, that we want to really adapt and take a responsibility for our future generations. So that means that it is for Eindhoven Airport very, very important topic, and this also really helps in our journey towards net zero. Of course, the living environment equally as important as of the quality of the airport, because we are still an airport and we really want to simply connect everybody with the region within in Europe. So this is the main takeaway of this this slide. And let me tell you a little bit more about the planet roadmap that we have. This is something you can see on our website as well. We are fully transparent on what we are going to achieve and our goals. As you can see here, our roadmap also at the map of Eindhoven Airport. I think you can recognize it if you know it. And the main thing here in the left up corner is we want to accelerate sustainability up to 30% less noise exposure and CO2 emission from departing flights in 2030 compared to 2019. So that's a big commitment that we made. And of course, our net zero goals for GSE and for our buildings and transport to and from the airport. But we also have a zero waste goal that we want. As mentioned in the earlier presentations, you can see that you have to have some targets as well when you go up to the levels 5. So this, if you are interested, please join us on our website, and then you can find a whole lot of more information about what we are doing specifically in all the different topics when it comes to scope 1, 2, and 3. So I will invite you to join there. And then what we all came here for, our ACA journey. So I think the first thing that we started in 2003, and that's what I wanted to mention, is that we already were ISO 14001 certified. So I joined the airport in 2005. So my life was a little bit easy when I started with my ACA journey, because we already had procedures in place. We already had an energy management in place. So that's, for me, it was more at the time for collecting everything that was already there, and then also making it an ACA program within our organization. So that started in 2009. Right at the start of ACA as well. So we joined from the beginning. And then my journey started. And well, like in all the presentations before, we were collecting data because that was the most difficult thing. At the time, we are now, I mentioned we have 75 colleagues now directly working at Eindhoven Airport. But back in the day, it was just 27 people working there. So we were a very tight group, and everybody was doing very different things at the time, but also many, many things. So collecting data and creating awareness with our colleagues, being so little at the time, was still a great challenge because everybody was busy doing their part of their job. So that was something that I really needed to focus on in the beginning. And then somewhere, Alexander, I asked you, somewhere over there, I joined the ACA task force as well, which was for me very interesting and also a great learning opportunity to go in depth with the program and learning to understand the program for me a little bit more, but also helping it develop it, and then learning even more than that. So that's really nice that there is an ACA task force that that helps develop the program even more with all the necessary steps that we have to take. And then going onwards, so we were accredited at level 1 in 2010. We were one of the first airports at the time. And we quickly were accredited at level 2 in 2011, so the year after. So that was a quick change. And then up to 2012, it was also very quickly. In the meantime, we started a partner environmental meeting, because as Morvan mentioned before, you have to have a stakeholder engagement and even so a stakeholder partnership plan. So we started with partner environmental meetings that were very, very helpful. It was twice a year that we created the awareness with our partners and getting them on board, so to speak. And that really helped setting our goals together as an airport as a whole. And then, of course, at level 3+, you also have to have the carbon removals at the time. So we were finding a strategic partner when it comes to offsetting, of course, in 2012. We found a very great partner in this, and we have been working together ever since. And especially now with all the things development when it comes to carbon removals and carbon offsetting, it's really important that you have a good strategic partner who also understands the guidance that ACA is giving when it comes to the criteria that Norman also explained just a little bit about. So, and then the whole journey began, of course, in taking the measurements needed towards, of course, your goals. So there is a gap between 2012 and 2019 in this picture, but we did, of course, a lot of things in the meantime to be reaching our goals. And I think the most important thing to tell is that we already had in 2013 a contract for 100% renewable energy, which we again renewed together with the whole Schiphol group in 2018. In which we stated that we also wanted to have additional renewable energy. So that was a very big contract that we set into the market, and we had a great tender about it, that we also helped our country develop more renewable energy besides the one projects that were already existing. So then you can really, as a group, help grow also within your country, not only within your airports. So, and then of course, a couple of times renewed our sustainability roadmap. Like I just showed, we have now a planet roadmap. So please go to our website if you are interested in what we're all doing. And in 2020, that was also a very big step, because then the airport, the Eindhoven Airport Consultation was founded. And this is a group with within the community. So we also have a consultation with the community about the development of Eindhoven Airport and creating the awareness of what we are all doing. ACA is also something that we let them know that what we are doing on that part. So also the community is really involved in our journey. And last but not least, we had a commitment in 2030, like I just mentioned a little bit before. That was something also really important for our management to commit to, because we really wanted to accelerate when it comes to sustainability. So I'm very grateful that our board of directors have made a commitment in 2030, because that really accelerates and also helps my work and all the colleagues that are doing their jobs to making Eindhoven Airport a little bit more sustainable. So, and what we all have been doing also is the introduction of a sustainability manual. That is something that I should have done earlier, because this is a manual especially created for all my colleagues at the airport on how they can implement sustainability within their work. Because well, all the years before, it was okay. We have to do something about sustainability. Gabby, your sustainability. So please help us. But now we have a manual that they can help. They can look into to have. Okay, to let them know, okay, which criteria that I need to implement within my own work. So that really helps, and I can really recommend it, but then sooner. And of course, as we are level 5 accredited as one of the first airports in the world, which I'm very, very proud of. Of course, we are really not done in, of course, all the things that we have to do towards our net zero strategy. So, and that's my sort of personal goal, that I really want to pay it forward to my colleagues, but also to the next generation, because of course, at some point I will stop doing my job, and then everybody has to continue doing it theirs. So I really take value in paying it forward in this case. So there was a little bit about our ACA journey, and let me get you to some lessons learned, because you cannot do it alone. I have trying to do it for a very long time. I'm not recommending it. So, and you also really need to start creating awareness in your organization early, because if you can do it alone, you need the people around you to help you set the goals and have a strategic plan about your net zero journey. And you have to create a team around you. I've been doing a lot of it on my own in the first beginning, and that's a lot of work and a lot of effort. But then you miss the opportunity to let your colleagues help you in the journey of the airport. So that's something that I really would recommend. And also assign data suppliers, because then you have also the commitment and the shared work labor of getting it done. Also create one point of truth, because if you create a team, then everybody is going to select their data and they're going to put it on their own computers and environment, and then you get lost in all the documents that you need, because you need a lot of documents if you want to have an accreditation of ACA. So create one point of truth where everybody can rely on. And if you are a growing airport, that's something that we of course, well, like you see in the numbers, that we have been, and you have to be aware of changing your operational boundaries, because that's the starting point of your whole journey. And then when you're growing and you don't take them into account, you really need to recalculate every time your footprint. So that's something that you need to be aware of when you are growing and having multiple buildings, or if you buy more property and so on and so on. So that's some lessons learned that I really wanted to share. And why should you do ACA? And let me tell you from the beginning, I don't have any shares in the ACA program. So this is just me and my personal view. So the main thing for us that was important is that it's voluntary. It's not something that we are obliged by our community or is somehow registered in legislation and so on. It's voluntary. So therefore you are completely in control of setting your own goals and your own boundaries. And that's, for me, at least, a happy place to be. It gives you structure. So the guidance that ACA is giving, it really gives you structure in the steps that you have to take. And it also helps you, therefore, focus on what you should be doing. Because if you have your footprint, then you know, of course, where your big CO2 gaps are and which decisions that you need to make in order to help and create the big CO2 reductions as from the beginning. And there is so much knowledge available within the ACA community. So we can really learn from each other. Over 600 airports now are in the program. So much knowledge there. If you start the journey, or if you are wanting to start a journey, there is a whole lot of knowledge you can rely on. And we are all eager to help you. And what my personal favorite is, we are a very like-minded, passionate community. Because if you struggle through the whole sustainability journey, you have some restrictions, you have people that don't find it as important. And it's really nice to be within a community that we all have the same goals and we all want the same things. And it's really, everybody's talking so passionately about what they are doing and how are they going to reach it. So it's really nice. Being a psychologist, it's almost like therapy. So, and what also the thing is that it's more and more an acknowledged accreditation. So it really helps you communicate towards your net zero journey, also within your community. And that's really something. When we started in 2009, nobody was taking care of CO2. It was all noise back at the time. So, and then it shifted to CO2. And now everybody is thinking, okay, but you should do it anyway. So it really helps you communicate what you have been doing and what you're going for. And last but not least, it really helps you reach your goals. It can be done. Level 5 is doable. We are one of the examples, together with now 23 other airports. So I invite you to join and help us help you go through the net zero journey. So that was my presentation. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gabby. And thank you, Marvin and Alexandra, for your shares as well. I noticed there are a few questions that we would like to cover in a second, but I just wanted to go back to you, Gabby, very quickly. You mentioned that you also have military operations at your airport. Could you tell us a little bit more about that part of the footprint? How is it then done?
Yeah, but that's when we started. If you start the ACA, then you need to decide your operational boundaries. And because we are part of a military airbase, then you really need to discuss your scope. Because, for instance, we have an ATC that is not part of our airport. So that's something that's a little bit different from Eindhoven Airport. I think that most of the airports also now joining that we have the scopes 1, 2, and 3 are in a similar definition, but it can be different in each airport.
Thank you so much for sharing. And let's just go now to I've got a few more questions, but first let's look at the questions from the audience. Thank you so much. There is a question around SAF certificates. I mean, I see SAF credits, but I believe we mean SAF certificates here. And whether there was any way those could be potentially included in Scope 3 emission reduction. Maybe for you, Marvin and Alexander, it's a very hot topic right now, SAF certificates, and I believe we're all waiting for further guidance from SBTi and Greenhouse Gas Protocol, how those will be recognized. Do you have any insights that we're not aware of, perhaps? Could you share a little bit more, please?
Yeah, I can start with that one, and then Alexander can always add to it. So the program at the moment does recognize SAF certificates exclusively for business travel. So for example, if an airport purchases SAF credits for an equivalent volume of their business travel, and they're at a level where offsetting is required, so for example, 3+, 4+, or 5, then the emissions that are required to be offset from business travel reduces because you've purchased the SAF certificates there. So it is something that, you know, as I say, the program does recognize, and then yeah, we've seen airports use it, and we're, you know, in dialogue with the airports, and we get that question.
Actually, does it answer your question, or let us know if you would like to follow up? You can always raise your hand. There is another question coming from Alex about targets needing to be in line with 1.5 degree pathway. Is there any plan to update the recent documentation to allow for 1.5 or 2 degrees?
Yeah, I can take that one. So if you go onto the ACA website, airportcarbonaccreditation.org, there's a section called Technical Documents. And at the bottom of that page, there's Technical and Other Communications. At the moment, we have 4 communications for this calendar year, and all of these communications are shared with the airports and the approved verifiers. And I think it's communication 3 or 4, communication 3, sorry, where we shared earlier this year in June that the 1.5 degrees is now instated for the program, and that this is the pathway that we recognize, unless an airport sits in a country that does not use that pathway and that still uses the 2 degree pathway. So hopefully that answers the question to Alex.
Thank you. And yes, please again raise your hands if anybody would like to ask any further question. There was quite a technical question from Velasquez Abad. We got it. Thanks very much. Reporting Scope 3 Category 2 requires embodied carbon of many types of fleets. In the ACA model, there are a couple of vehicles. Is there an exhaustive list of embodied carbon of vehicles? What is the acceptable as a proxy? This is a very technical question, but perhaps we can take it on.
Again, I'll be happy to take this one, and then I'll see. Sorry if Gabby and Alexander want to add anything. And hi to Daniel in Edinburgh. So, yeah, category 2. I think of all of the Scope 3 emission categories, category 2 is definitely one of the more tricky ones to get data for, especially because within the GHG protocol, you have different methodologies there. So you can use the spend-based methodology or supplier-specific methodology. Our advice really is start as early as you can to get that data right from the planning stage, work with your capital projects teams. And also we're seeing airports using certifications like the LEED certification. So that's a US green building program. And yeah, we do see, to answer the question, we do see variation in the emissions in this category. Gabby, I don't know what your experience is like with category 2.
Can you unmute, Gabby?
I'm sorry, for some reason it doesn't work. No, yeah. Yeah, well, reduction 2, it has been some years ago for us to have but it is the category 2 within the scope 3. It's a really difficult one, and we have been talking about this a lot on how to proceed with that. It is also something that we are discussing within the ACA task force, because it's a really difficult one to register, so to speak. So, and I think now, because my colleague is doing these calculations, and I think we have a top 3 of all the from the finance department on the big investments. And then we look into which were the highest one when it comes to financial, or if we can we can change it to CO2, and then we go from there.
Thank you, Gabby. And I believe the next question might be best answered by yourself. It's from Alex. It's about actually greenwashing. And the question is, while reports suggest the necessary technologies for net zero scope 3 reduction exist, many include caveats and assumptions to make delivery uncertain. So how can airports set ambitious targets without risking accusations of greenwashing? Have you come across difficulties yourself as an airport? Do you work closely maybe with your communications team to make sure that we avoid such accusations?
Yeah, this is something that we have been tackling, so to speak, since we are level 3+ certified in 2012. Of course, then there were also the offsetting certificates, and there's always going to be let me say, challengers on the topic. And as long as you can explain what you were doing and explain the projects that we are helping through these certificates, which I mentioned, you really need to find a good strategic partner when it comes to your offsetting, then you can explain that what you're doing is the right thing, but you need to be transparent about it. And there is a guidance from ACA that is developed every time that, of course, new insights are coming. So I think that's the good thing within the program, that they stay on top of it. And I really focus together with our communicational department on telling the true story. And then you cannot go wrong when it comes to greenwashing, in my perspective.
Thank you so much for this. And question perhaps for you, Alexander. It comes from Ines Fazenda. How was it decided the standard structure of greenhouse gases inventory for all airports aiming to be accredited by ACA?
Sorry, yeah, I'm not sure I had this one. Say, can you repeat? I just didn't hear
it. Of course, yeah. How was decided the standard structure of GG inventory of all airports aiming to be accredited by ACA?
Yeah, well, I think it was used indeed as the main reference from start of the development of the program. So yeah, I mean, I was not there exactly when the whole program was launched, but I think it was considered indeed as the most robust and shared standard for everyone to follow. But I see also that there are also questions that I can maybe answer quickly. Basically, I see there was a question on level 4+. Like, can an airport stays in level 4+, or is it mandatory to achieve level 5 in the upcoming years? I mean, obviously, no. There is no. It's not mandatory to achieve any level, but obviously there is a strong incentive for any airports to move upward in the level. So, no, obviously you can stay at level 4, level 4+. But obviously, I mean, the intention is really to support you in any way we can, or recommend that you can achieve the level 5 at some point. Then there was also a question on, I see reduction before offsetting. So particularly scope 3 categories on how to ensure reductions before offsetting. I mean, let's be clear here. I mean, the reductions before offsetting, it's really relates to scope 1 and 2 mainly. I mean, you have to start indeed reducing your emissions on scope 1 and 2. Then when it's about scope 3 emissions, obviously this, I mean, it's a bit more tricky for the airports. We don't own this emission, so it's more about the fact that how much we can significantly influence the reduction of scope 3 emissions. And if you look at the application manual, basically, indeed, we state that we also base. I mean, you have to sit down basically with your partners, look at the roadmap that they have to reach net zero, because obviously the scope 3 emissions of the airport is the scope 1 or 2 emissions of someone else. So basically, this is where we really recommend and we count also obviously on the partners to commit to net zero and look at how they also advance and implement their roadmap. So indeed, this is something it's for the airport to influence as much as it can, based on the roadmaps from the partners. And maybe another one that I saw quickly is related to the ACA task force and how to join the ACA task force. So the ACA task force is composed of 30 members. It's an airports only task force, and all the experts here are basically experts that have a strong experience and robust experience with Airport Carbon Accreditation. The idea is really for these people to highly contribute to the discussions, to the development of the program, making sure that it meets also the needs and capacities of the airports. It's not a question of size. There are airports of all sizes, indeed. I mean, Gabi was part of it. ADP or Schiphol, Amsterdam is part of it. But it's not only European, actually. There are also 3 seats per regions. So we have airports from all regions represented. And then how to so basically, as I said, there is a limited amount of seats available for this task force, and as soon as someone leaves a seat or a seat is free for anyone to take it, basically we would recommend any interested parties to reach out to me, send me an email. We will put that in a list and make sure that you are contacted as soon as there is a seat available.
Thank you so much, Alexander. I'm conscious of time. I'll read maybe one more question. I believe that's for Gabi. And I also saw a question around how many airports per region and so on, and which level. That data is all available on the ACA website. So you can search by the level, by the country, by the region, and it will, or even go navigate through the map. It's all there. Thank you. 48 apparently. Thank you. And Gabi, maybe for you, I think this is very relevant because the idea of this webinar was to really support our the supply chain of all the airports to make them understand the challenges you as an airport you're facing and how hard it may be to deliver. You may have great ambitions, great agenda, things that you want to achieve, but then it's about the day-to-day operations and how you can actually engage your stakeholders. Is there any recipe you could share with the audience, please?
Yeah, of course I can. Yeah, that's I mentioned it a little bit earlier. We started with the environmental partner meetings, which really helped me gather everybody at the airport. So at the time it was a voluntary partner meeting that you could join, and back in the day we were just even a smaller airport at the time. So there were not a lot of partners there. So I think we started, with 10 or 12 people. Now we're almost up to 60 every meeting. But we also made it mandatory in the contracts that we have with all the partners on the airport. So that really helped. Of course, these meetings that we can share the goals, and they are all common goals now because everybody is joining those meetings. I can really recommend it.
Thank you so much. And once again, thank you everyone who joined us today. As we mentioned at the very beginning, this recording will be shared with the registered participants very soon. And thank you to our speakers, to Alexander, to Gabi, to Marvin on sharing your knowledge. Of course, this is just an hour. There is so much more we could have covered. We'll try to get back to you with answers to the remaining questions. But please reach out to us if you have any further questions, and we hope you found it an insightful hour to spend with the ACA program. Thanks, everyone, again. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.